Shalom and greetings from Jerusalem, Jane. I want to say happy holidays to all my Jewish friends and followers around the world. Happy Shavuot. You can hear traffic outside, but it's the hustle and bustle of living in Jerusalem. When the sun sets tonight and for the next 24 hours here in the Holy Land, it's going to be Shavuot. It's a festive holiday because this is the time where God called Moses on Mount Sinai and he gave the 10 commandments. He gave the Torah to Moses. This comes 7 weeks, 49 days after we celebrated Pesach. So the Jewish people are going to stay up all night and celebrate. They're going to read the 10 commandments. They're going to study the Torah. People in their homes and also in synagogues are going to decorate with flowers because it's also where we celebrate the first fruit, the harvest. And the Jewish people actually took their fruits and their harvest and they went to the temple on the Temple Mount to give their offerings to God. Yes, you heard me right. There was a first temple and there was a second temple on the holiest of the holiest on the Temple Mount where the Jewish people went to give their offerings to the Lord Almighty. God put his name down in Israel. In Israel, he put his name down in Jerusalem. He called that city his own. And on the Temple Mount, he had his holy hill where the first and the second temple stood, where the Jewish people went out with thousands of years of connections, and they prayed and they gave offering in the first and the second temple before they were destroyed and before the Muslim invaders came and they crossed down their mosque on top of the ruins where for thousands of years the two temples stood. So we celebrate Shavuot tonight, and also because of the first fruits, people are eating a lot of dairy fruits, they are eating a lot of cheesecakes. So we celebrate that God gave the 10 commandments, the Torah, to who? The Indians, to the Danish Vikings, to the people living in the Amazons, the rainforest? No. God chose the Jewish people. Through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their descendants, he took them out of bondage in Egypt. He brought them into the Holy Land. And God took Moses as the Redeemer to save the people out of slavery in Egypt. And now Moses was summoned up on the mountain and God gave him the 10 commandments. So it's a full holiday here in Israel. As the sun set tonight, all of Monday, it's off. It's a full holiday. So happy Shavuot to all my Jewish friends and followers. We celebrate that God is faithful to the Jewish people. For thousands and thousands of years, he chose you. Because when you touch the apple of God's eye, you touch Israel, you touch the Jewish people. Of course, this is what all the anti-Israel haters don't understand, that when you touch Israel, you're touching the apple of God's eyes. I have said in many of my videos, when it comes to Israel, God and Israel are one. You cannot separate the Jewish people from God. God chose this nation to give the Torah, to give the 10 commandments. It was out of this nation God bore. The birth of God's heart was Israel. Israel was born out of God's heart. The Jewish people was born out of God's heart. That's what separates this nation from the rest of the world. They are also reading the book of Ruth, the Moabite, who followed her mother-in-law Naomi when her husband passed away. She followed her mother-in-law Naomi home, and she says, where you go, I will go. Your God is my God, and your people are my people. The story of Ruth and Boaz took place during the harvest season, so they are also reading the book of Ruth. And as we know, Ruth was the grandmother of King David. It was in that inheritance, in that lineage. So God has been faithful. God has chosen the Jewish people as his people, and Israel as a blessing to the whole world. That's how God created Israel, to be a blessing through the whole world. The Jewish people have thousands of years of connection to this land. It was beaten and broken and occupied by foreign enemies and foreign armies, but God was faithful to the Jewish people. He brought them out of slavery. He brought them into the land, to the Holy Land, the land of milk and honey. So that's why we also have all of the dairy products during this holiday. The land of milk of honey. And God said, I will plant them here, never ever to be uprooted again. Of course, the Jewish people have been uprooted. They were uprooted of Gaza. Gaza is part of Israel. The only reason why Hamas and all of these savages was able to take over the Gaza Strip was because Israel removed forcefully their people out of Gaza. But God has brought them home now, and in a time now where we see the failing president of France, Macron, who was beaten by his 25-year-old wife, caught on camera on a plane, is going to have a conference in the United Nations, and they're going to try and force a two-state solution on Israel, when God has said, I have planted them here never to be uprooted again. But the enemy is jealous on the thing, the nation, the people that God has chosen for such a time as this. And the Jewish people have been hunted, persecuted, and killed down through history because God chose them. He chose them, and he chose this nation to be a blessing, because the Jewish Messiah will come one day and reign and rule out of Israel. So we will stand with Israel. I will continue to speak the truth. The Jewish people have thousands of years of connection to this land that they have liberated after being occupied by foreign armies. So it's important that we continue to stand on facts, on truth, of basic knowledge and history. When mainstream media and world leaders are failing miserably, didn't they take a history test in school? Open a book and read about the history of Israel. Oh, but then you read the Bible. Then you're reading the word of the Bible, because that's the history of Israel and the Jewish people. How remarkable is that? So for such a time as this, me and my house will always speak the truth and stand with Israel. And from my little apartment here in Jerusalem, I wish a happy holiday, happy Shavuot to my Jewish friends here in Israel. It's for one day we celebrate. Outside of Israel, they're celebrating for 2 days. God will always be faithful to Israel and the Jewish people. He gave the Torah to Moses, the descendants of Abraham, because God chose them as his people. They are united, they are one, and they will always be that. Bye.